Hello and welcome back to Urbex Histories. First things first, I want to say a huge thank you for the support I received on episode 1. You guys really seemed to enjoy it and were very positive about seeing more. So here we are with episode 2, but I must warn you that today's episode will most likely not be as long as the first one. This is due to the site actually only being active for a little over 10 years. In fact, the site itself has actually now been stood still doing absolutely nothing for the majority of its life since it opened in 1991. And in case you hadn't guessed from that little teaser, today we're going to be looking at Thoulstone Park Golf Club, which we recently visited and found a very stripped out building with only a handful of things left, but it still had some decent character. So let's not waste any time, let's get straight into it. Okay, so going back as far as I could, I found that the site was owned originally by a company called Thoulstone Park Golf Club Limited. Yeah, I know, highly original name, right? But that company was set up in March of 1989, but today, as you might imagine, the company is dissolved. The club itself didn't open its doors until 1991 and was home to an 18-hole floodlit golf course, 20 driving range bays and a separate clubhouse and facilities, which is the part we explored. The entire course measures around 6,300 yards and has a standard scratch score of 70. Okay, I just realized that some of you guys may not know what that means. Hey, I barely do and I'm making the video. So in very basic terms, here is what it is. In golf, you play each hole to a certain number of strokes. So if you're playing on a par 4, that means you should be able to get the ball into the hole in no more than 4 strokes. If you go over, you get what's called a handicap. A scratch player in golf is someone who can finish the course with no handicaps. So in other words, can get every hole on or under the par amount. So the scratch score helps people determine how difficult the course is or how big it is. So a 70 scratch score across 18 holes averages out about 3.8 par. So from that we can guess that either there are a lot of par 4s and 3s or not many par 5s, meaning the course would be a smallish one or the golfers that go there are amazing. So that's that explained in very basic terms. No doubt somebody in the comments will be able to explain it better than I can. Anyway, back to the history of Thoulstone Park Golf Club. People visiting the site were welcome both weekdays and weekends after 11:30 AM, and the green fees, which is how much it costs to go around the course entirely once, were as little as £18 during the week and £24 on weekends, which I personally didn't think that was that bad. However, we are talking about 90s prices, so maybe that was ridiculously expensive back then. Who knows? Well, someone probably knows, just not me. At the time, the club was managed by Gene Pierce and the club's golf pro was Tony Isaacs, both of which I tried researching but was unable to find very much on at all. And to be totally honest, this has been the way for most of researching this site. Because it wasn't open for very long, it's really hard to find details that link an individual to this site. For example, at some point the owner changed from Thoulstone Park Club Limited to TJ Leisure Limited, and I can't figure out if it was just a name change for the company or if the site was actually sold. Somewhere in the mix there's also another company called Classic Lodges, a subsidiary of the Northern Trust. I have to admit I do get the impression that the club might have just been passed around quite a bit. And if I do manage to find out a little more later down the line, you'll be sure to see a part 2 on this site, as there does seem to be quite a lot I can't uncover. But for now we'll see what happens. Anyway, at the peak of its popularity the club had some 400 members signed up and seemed to be quite popular and on the rise. Although I did find references from forum comments that the general consensus was that most of the facilities were very good, if not a little run down, but the course itself wasn't that well maintained. So whatever the actual reason was, in 2002 the site closed for good, much to the dismay of many of its members. And I have seen a lot of people saying it was due to the owner at the time wanting to build a mansion on the site. And to back this up, I did find an application to build a country house in 2002, but it was rejected due to the heavy local opposition. So it does appear that this was the plan for the owner at the time. Since then, the club has been sat empty and disused until 2012 when it was sold to a new owner, who at the time remained anonymous, but who we now know are James and Alka Hughes Hallett, and they themselves have some really big plans for this site. In 2013, the site was home to the Sunrise Celebration, which at the time renamed itself to Sunrise Festival's Another World, but has since moved sites again to Chepstow just over the Welsh border. But James and Alka's plans don't stop with a single festival. In fact, in October 2014, they applied for planning permission to build a 54-room hotel with a bar, restaurant, spa, gym treatment room and a function suite. They also plan to build an eco-friendly community with a 10-hole pay-to-play golf course. They've called this venture the Thoulstone Park Eco-Sustainable Community Development Project, and back in 2013 they did indeed start planting trees in preparation for this future project. And to be honest, that's pretty much where we stand today. The plans for the hotel and facilities were actually accepted, and a lot of the local community seemed quite positive about the plans for the site's future. So although it may not return as being the kind of golf club some of the previous members wanted, hopefully this can be some kind of consolation prize. And at least it's not going to be sat doing nothing for much longer. Hopefully. So that is it for Urbex Histories episode 2. Episode 3 will be out very soon, as I have the abandoned school still to talk about, which is going to be a really interesting one. And after that, I still have 2 explores I've already recorded, so if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything that's coming up in the future very soon. But before I go on, as promised, let's look at some of your guys' comments from episode 1. So the first comment comes from Henry Foreman, who says, "It is great that I was there to meet you and get my picture on YouTube even though it was blacked out, but next time don't black out our faces." Obviously we're really glad to meet you, but unfortunately we do have a few kind of obligations when we do put videos and pictures of people up. We didn't get any kind of permission from you guys, so obviously you personally would have been fine with it, but there was lots of other people in the photograph who might not have been, so we didn't know, so we didn't take the risk. So again, it was great meeting you guys, and I'm glad you guys were there, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video of our experience when we went there. But yeah, we had to black out the faces, but that's just YouTube, I'm afraid. The next comment is from Various Gaming, who says, "Super interesting, your channel has grown a little since you started urban exploring, hasn't it? How many are you when you go on urban exploring trips, and are there any other YouTubers with you?" Well, actually, yes. Obviously, I go quite often with the Exploring the Unseen World guys, but yeah, usually it's about sort of 4 or 5 of us that go on these trips. You can't really go on your own. I've said in a previous podcast, you can't go by yourself because it's dangerous, and if you do, then you put yourself at risk. So it's best to go in a group, like sort of 3 to 5 is probably about a decent number. The next comment comes from Exploring the Unseen World, who says, "First." They also went on to say, "Really enjoyed this, dude. It would be interesting to hear one about Moncton Value and Fort Gilliker." Actually, yeah, it's something I would like to do, and if you guys want to see a video backdating on those previous explores I've already done, let me know, because I can do that if you want to. Obviously, I've got a few that I've got backed up right now, but if you guys want to see more later on, let me know and I can put them in the works. So that is all the comments I have time for this time, but don't forget to leave your comments down below to get them featured in episode 3. But for this time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video. See ya!